What's up, guys? Welcome to the Endless Endeavor podcast with me, Greg Anderson. This is going to be episode number 13, and I have my buddy with me who is a jiu-jitsu training partner. He's a blue belt out of Electric Jiu Jitsu. Been training with us for, 2 years now?
Yeah, about.
Okay.
A little over.
Little over 2 years. People can always remind me how long they've been training.
I don't know. Or maybe, I don't know. I don't keep track, dude. I just keep showing up.
Yeah, exactly. Joe always says there's no secret to jiu-jitsu. Just show up. So, yeah, anyways, we met through jiu-jitsu, and he's been a regular at the academy ever since. Just a cool guy, hardworking dude that it was one of those guys that as soon as we met, I knew, like, okay, this guy's going to be one of our team members, because you just brought that, like, hard, raw, tough energy, and that's what we like to promote at our academy. So it was cool seeing you just dive in and be all about jiu-jitsu, and I'm sure we're going to get into that, because that's always, your intro to jiu-jitsu is always a good story.
Definitely.
Everybody has one. So, but anyways, yeah, so sorry, I was trying to introduce you and I forgot your name is actually Tyler Stanaway.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, Tyler had a bunch of questions for me, and I thought it'd be cool to just sit down, talk jiu-jitsu, answer some of the questions that he had, and discuss some of the things that he's going through. He's a metal fabricator, and with the whole COVID thing, just like everybody's industry, it's been kind of affected in a negative manner, and it's just interesting hearing different perspectives and what everybody's going through. So I always like to kind of give people the floor a little bit, just introduce yourself, what you do, and we'll just go from there.
Cool. Well, my name's Tyler. I am a metal fabricator. I'm a union worker, journeyman, work sheet metal. And that's probably what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It seems to have been the right choice. I graduated from Divers Institute of Technology when I got out of high school and learned to be an underwater welder. I then moved to Louisiana to work on the oil rigs offshore, and really what it came down to it is I was too young and I had never left my parents, and I had a girlfriend back home, and I made up a bunch of excuses to get back home. And I made it back.
They'll do that to you.
That's it. So
how old were you when you moved down?
I just turned 18.
Okay.
18. No, 19. 19 when I moved down, but I had never moved out of my parents' house.
Yeah.
Essentially, my parents and my sister and my girlfriend and I all flew down to Louisiana. We hung out for like a week in New Orleans, and then they woke up and was like, okay, we're going home, and I stayed.
And you're like, hey guys, what about me?
Yeah, and the worst part
how long did you stay down there and do that?
I was only down there for like 3 weeks,
and
I came home.
Yeah.
So,
dude, I've heard, I've had some other buddies go that career path, and that's dangerous shit, right?
Yes,
like,
very dangerous.
What is the rate of people getting fucked up in that industry doing that?
I don't have an actual percentage, but it's pretty high. And the longevity, like say you don't die or whatever during work, the longevity of your life afterwards, I think it's only like 50, 55.
Okay, so similar to law enforcement.
Pretty much.
And if it's probably for the same reasons in law enforcement, it's a career of cortisol running through your veins. Stress hormone day in and day out.
That's it.
Because if what you do professionally is stressful for the majority of your working hours, your body can't handle that.
No.
That's not normal. Like the fight or flight response is supposed to be when we're confronted with danger, or we have to fight somebody, or we have to kill an animal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and then it's back to chilling out and laying in your cave and relaxing with your woman. Like,
right. Let it come back down before we spike again.
But instead, in today's society, there's so many career fields that are just stress. Then you retire and have a heart attack, and everyone's like, oh, I wonder what happened. That's so sad. Well, you did it to yourself, you know?
The whole time he's putting money away into his retirement.
Yep.
So he's broke his whole life, and he died before his pension was even there.
Bro, I talk about that all the time with police officers, is that the only thing that a lot of cops are thinking about is padding their pension and retirement.
Yep.
Every single thing that they do day in and day out. And that's cool if you're planning for your future. Like, obviously there's a balance. If you just fuck off with all your money and your time, and you retire and you have nothing, that's going to be a bad spot to find yourself in too. But if every waking hour is planning for what you're going to do when you turn 65 and you're miserable in the meantime, that's a problem, dude.
That is a big problem. That's a big problem.
So when you're the underwater welding on the oil rigs down there, I've heard another one of my buddies did that, and he was telling me, like, if you even nick your suit with I don't remember what kind of welders you're using, but like something like that simple can be a wrap, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so dangerous.
Along with, so unlike scuba diving, where you have tanks, you don't have tanks on your back scuba diving around. You have a helmet on that has comms in it up to topside, and it's giving you air from a low compression air compressor. So if there's anything in the lines, your air stops. You have a little bottle on your back called the EGS, for emergency gas system, that you can then turn it on. But I think more than that, the nitrogen saturation.
Oh, okay.
Getting bent.
Yeah.
Is some of those sat divers, they'll be down there for like a month, like 1,100 feet under the ocean.
What do you mean under the water for a month?
Like actually under the water. They have these pods. Think of like a hyperbaric chamber.
Yep.
Large enough for 1 to 2 people to be inside. And I don't know if they have a door on it, or if it's like you take a cup and flip it upside down and put it in the water. It traps the air,
you
right?
Can just go in
so I don't know if it's like that or if there's a door. But they go down in stages, getting their body saturating whatever gases. And then they go down there. They do work for like maybe a day, maybe not even, maybe a few hours. But it took them a month to get their body acclimated to that depth, a little bit of work, and then just as long or longer to get back up. And then that's it. They won't work again for 2 months. But they made a hefty amount. But I mean, dude, the danger involved, like I'm not going to live under the ocean for a month.
It's not a good job for claustrophobics.
No. And we do jujitsu. I mean, claustrophobic is, I think, an understatement. Yeah, exactly. So yes, there's all sorts of dangers involved.
Well, and the whole tech, or not tech industry, the trade industry. I've talked about it on the show before. Man, it's such an overlooked industry these days.
It sure is.
Because put underwater welding aside,
right?
Like, you can make really good money, like right out of training. But and I've had a lot of talks lately with just some family friends that are reaching that age, 16, 17, 18. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And everybody just thinks you have to go to college, and then the rebels go into the military, right?
Right.
And it's like, well, you go to college and you accrue debt for the next 4 years, and then you get a degree in political science, which can earn you no money.
Yep.
And you're $60K in debt at 22 years old. Let's start life.
Yeah.
It's nuts, man.
It's terrible. It's so I'm what, 10 years younger than you? 8 years younger than you?
Turn 40 next month.
And I just turned 32.
Okay.
So when I graduated, almost all of my friends went to UW, Wazoo, Western, Central, Eastern, all of them around here. And I don't know if I can think of one that's...
Say it. Making as much money as you.
Yeah, making as much money as me. I don't think that they are. And if there is, it's very few. Because not only are they in debt up to their gills for learning whatever it is, their skill is not really applicable to real life.
Yeah.
They it's like this one guy I heard of. He's got a PhD in tuba.
Yeah.
Like,
Sorry for any tuba players that are listening. But no, and that's the thing, man. And I tell everybody, listen, if you want to be in an orchestra and that's your thing and you chase that dream, that's awesome.
That is.
Like, I mean, it's funny to bust on and be like, hey, he has a PhD in tuba, right? But if he's out there and he's killing it and he's passionate about it, like, that's pretty badass, right?
It is. But
that's not what you're finding with most college students. What you're finding is they go there, they either acquire debt or their parents are paying for them. And then when they come out, the job is not applicable. Like, their skill set is not earning them money in the real market.
And I've also seen them being, like, what's the word? Like, overtrained. They got too much qualifications for the job. There's a word for it. I can't think of. Overqualified.
Mm-hmm.
You have too much stuff and we're looking for, a guy to start at $15 an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why? Well, I don't want to work for $15 an hour. I
have a master's.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, you're not getting that.
When back in the day, the way to work your way up in the company was you showed up and you started mopping the floors.
Mm-hmm. And it still works.
Yeah, exactly.
Still to this day, that old traditional style still works. As long as you have pride. Because I know that, like, we got some young guys at the shop, and they're lacking pride in their work, whether it's sweeping the floor or painting the wall or sorting wheel weights. I understand it's not fun. We all know.
Yeah.
We've all done it. But if you do it with a sense of confidence and pride, I can guarantee you your chances of moving up that rank significantly increases compared to moping around, dragging ass, F this place, this sucks, whatever.
I don't know if you've noticed it, I have a little stone on my desk at the Jiu Jitsu Academy, and it was given to me by my grandpa when I was a kid, and it says something. I'm not gonna be able to rattle it off verbatim, but it was like, every job that you do is a self-portrait of yourself. Autograph all your work with excellence. Because that's the thing. Like, if I'm going to sweep this floor, the thing is that shop that you work at and the guy that started that and the guy that's bidding all these jobs and has timelines and stuff, like, he didn't get there by accident.
No.
He got there because he knows how to make things happen. And if you're working for a guy that knows how to make things happen and you one day want to work your way up through the ranks and become someone that's not sweeping the floors anymore, someone that is making a lucrative income and doing something that you enjoy, you got to show that from the very beginning, hey, my eyes are open, my mouth's shut. What do you need done? And it's funny, like, I'm only 40, but it's like the younger generation, you know what I mean? I feel like that's a thing now.
Yeah.
Like, nobody wants to start and just do the shit jobs. And I've talked about it on this podcast before. Like, when I was a new guy on teams, like, when I would get to Iraq, I would be the guy that would check all the tire pressure every morning.
Okay.
Like, I would be the guy, let's check the training fluid on our cars. Let's check the oil. Let's check the tire pressure. Let's wipe them down and just make sure they look good. Because in Iraq, like, that's one thing that the people take pride in is their vehicles. Mm-hmm. So if you're running a low pro detail, you want your car to look good.
Right.
Because they don't have a lot over there. So their cars, they have pride in them, you know? And it's just all those little things. You show the guys you're willing to do that for the team. In a matter of no time, you're one of the guys.
That's it.
You sweep those floors and you have a good attitude about it. You do a good job. In 3 months, you're one of the guys.
You are. I'm coming to get you.
Yep.
As a journeyman, we get apprentices. So there's certain things that is frowned upon if I go ask, like, say I need help. Say I'm bending a big piece of sheet metal on the big press brake and it's 10, 12 feet long. Well, it's really hard to line up with one person, so I gotta go get help. If I go get a journeyman, that's frowned upon, too much money. So I gotta pick apprentice. And right now I think we got like 3 or 4. Well, I know 2 of them. I pick the same 2 every single time. Because the other 2 suck. They're terrible.
And if the other 2 are listening,
well, get better at your job.
Stop sucking.
Stop sucking.
Yeah. No, and the thing is, like, and probably in the trades, it's probably still socially acceptable to tell someone you suck. But that's becoming less like even in law enforcement. If you come down on someone too hard, or you try and correct someone, and you're not being like careful of the words you choose, like God forbid you swear at somebody,
Right.
like, dude, they're filing grievances and they're getting the union involved and they're going to command staff. And it's like, you can't just have a normal conversation anymore and be like, hey, bro, this is what you fucked up. And because you fucked this up, you cost us this much money. And if you let that shit happen again, like, we're going to have a problem. Please learn from this.
Yeah.
And you can be hard on people and be respectful to them at the same time.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I learned that in the military. Like, I would always err on the side of treating people with kindness and treating people with respect. But there is a time when you need to bust people's balls.
Absolutely.
And if they're the right person for the job, they'll respect that too.
They do, because part of it is, if you really didn't give a shit, you might not even say anything at all. But you care.
Exactly. Yep.
Whether it's about what they fucked up on you care about, or them personally. But either way, if it wasn't a big deal, you just fucking pass on.
Yep. So I know you had some things in your mind that you wanted to talk about, but I always like to bring it back to jiu-jitsu, because every single last person listening to this podcast loves jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
Whether they know it or not. But, and you and I have talked about it off air a lot. Like, the first time you came into the academy, the first time we slapped and bumped and I rolled with you, as soon as we were done, I was like, how many street fights have you been in? And I forget what you told me, but it was a shitload.
A lot. At least 40.
Yeah. I was like, and how much martial arts training do you have?
Well, at the time, 0.
Yeah. And so I was like, yep, that's exactly what I figured the answer was going to be. And you raced motocross your whole life.
Yeah.
You fought dudes all the time growing up, and you just had that grittiness that you can't really create in people. Like and I talk about it, anytime you put your hands on someone, and now that you've been grappling a lot for the last couple of years, when you lock horns with another man or another woman, like, there's tough chicks out there too.
Yes, there is.
It only takes 2 seconds to kind of know what that person brings to the table. Like, their aggressiveness, their athleticism, their balance, their base. You can learn a lot about someone in 2 seconds.
It's like a stat check real quick.
It's exactly what it is.
Like, you touch the shoulder, and it's like, gives you a quick readout, just a briefing.
Yeah.
But it gives you a pretty damn good summary.
And you kind of know what you're in for.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not this accomplished competitor, but I've competed. I mean, I probably competed 50 times or something throughout the years. And I always say, in jiu-jitsu competition, when you grab a hold of someone, one of 2 things goes through your head. I'm going to fucking smash this dude, or here we go.
Here we go.
I hope I packed a lunch, you know?
It's gonna be a long one.
Yeah, as soon as we were done, I was like, okay, I can tell you don't know jiu-jitsu, but I can tell you're a motherfucker too. And that's the thing. The guys that bring that kind of energy and have that kind of background, in my opinion, as a coach, that's like one of the best like packages that someone can bring as a new student, because I know you're gritty. I know you're tough. I know you're not going to quit. I know you're a good athlete. Those are the things that are hard to build in people.
Right.
If you already have all that, well, guess what? I just need to show you how to do a fucking arm bar, and how to escape from mount, and how to get on someone's back. And you once you start to put together the technique, then the whole package is already there.
Right.
You know, and that's why it's awesome to see it 2 years in, you're a problem for everybody now, you know?
Honestly, dude, it might sound weird or crazy to some, but it's like really important to me. Like, on a lot of different levels.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like, prior to jiu-jitsu, I had a pretty rough upbringing. Not so much like as in wealth, but trauma that had happened. And so one thing that jiu-jitsu did help me, it's like it gave me like something to look forward to, something to focus my energy on. Like you said, fighting all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, granted, I do like fighting, but I found out as I've gotten older that it's stemmed from something, whether it's inner anger or of why I'm wanting to fight, not the actual act, but wanting to go, say, to the bar, and I want this guy to start fighting with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas the first day that I showed up, prior to even meeting you, when I met Joe, and he was like, "Hey, you want to try rolling?" And I'm like, "Sure."
So your first practice you came to, I wasn't there?
No, because I was bringing the kids to the kids class.
Got it. That's right.
And
okay.
then Joe had asked, and I'm like, "Sure." And I legit thought I was going to ragdoll Joe around that place.
Uh-huh.
And that's not what happened. And the wife is sitting right there. And, like, you know, that's pretty kind of humiliating.
Yeah.
And so that was the moment when I was like, okay, I need to learn this. And then once I showed up, like, for your class and actually rolled with you and other people who aren't even black belts, and the two girls choked the shit out of me, it was like, yeah, this can never, ever happen again. So that's what started my, I can't quit. I need to stay committed. I need to learn. This is very critical now as a father, a husband, especially in times like we're living right as we very speak.
Yes.
It is absolutely critical that I understand self-defense at least to the best that I can, right? I can only put in so much time.
Well, and the reality of jiu-jitsu is honing that your warrior spirit and honing your abilities to kill other men with your bare hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just to say like you might find yourself in a situation where you have to kill another man with your bare hands. What it does is it's constantly reiterating that mentality of how to engage someone in combat and how to win.
Mm-hmm.
And in real life, it might be with a knife, it might be with a gun, but we can't train like that. You know, we can train firearms and you can train whatever kind of knife fighting you want or whatever. But the thing I like about jiu-jitsu is you can go real hard at each other and you can try and win.
Yeah.
And it's important to hone that mentality. I think that's just as important as the skill set you're developing. It's just keeping your mind sharp and ready for combat. And like you said, right now, more than ever, it may be on the horizon.
Yeah.
It might be fucking next week. You know,
who knows?
I've said a lot of times, I think when the powder keg ignites, finally, it's just going to fucking go bananas across the whole country.
I agree.
But I remember, I forgot that you'd been to some of the kids' classes before you came to mine. But I remember when you rolled at my class for the first time, that was when you went with John, correct?
Yes.
And I love that story because John is probably... I might butcher this now, but he's mid 50s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know, mid to late 50s, I think.
Yeah.
And he's a dad. And if you were to look at John and not know anything about him, you'd think, I'll whoop his ass.
I remember being worried when he asked me to roll, legit being worried about hurting him. Like maybe taking him down and breaking his hip. Like I thought it was, okay, I'm going to go real nice. This is my first day.
Yeah, I got to be real gentle with this guy.
I don't want to hurt Grandpa over here.
And what did Grandpa do to you?
Grandpa snatched me by my lapels and choked the shit out of me while I was standing up. Took about 4 seconds, and I looked at him, and I was like, Grandpa ain't fucking around.
Yeah, that's right.
Holy shit. It just blew my mind the way that he just grabbed me by my neck and did that. Because like you said, or I said, it's not like combat is foreign to me.
Yeah.
So, and I don't fight like I used to. We're not kids. But the fact that he can do that was pretty damn impressive.
Yeah. No, and it's you can. I mean, the reality of fighting, it is a young man's game. Just being stupid, being out in the street, you know, like. Mm-hmm. If we were still finding ourselves in those situations at 32 or 40, like you said, wanting to fight all the time, that stems from something. And if you don't find an answer to that at some point in your life, like that's on you, right?
Yeah.
But jiu-jitsu does it. It fills that void that a lot of men have of just yearning for combat. And I know that sounds strange to some people. Something inside of most men and a lot of women where you just want to compete, you want to test yourself, you want to have something difficult to commit your time to. And if you look at the people that put a high emphasis on training, they're not getting in any type of bullshit fights anymore.
No.
Because they don't need to go to the pub and pound Guinnesses and then show how tough they are. Because you have a pretty good idea how tough you are. You have a pretty good idea of where you fall into the ranks. Like, I always say jiu-jitsu shows you where you are, and it also shows you where you aren't.
Yeah, that's
a good thing to know as a man. Like, I know, line up everybody at our academy, and I know how it's going to feel when I roll with each and every one of those people. I know the likelihood that they're going to win or I'm going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's guys that, like my coach that I know, every single time I roll with him, he's going to smash me. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's how it goes. And then there's people at our academy that I know when I roll them, I'm going to smash them. But it's healthy to have a realistic view of who you are, what you're capable of, and just what you bring to the table. That's the biggest thing that a lot of men, and I was one of them, you were one of them, just because you have success getting hammered and fighting out front of strip clubs and stuff when you're 21 years old, you start to think like, oh yeah, dude, like I knocked this dude out and then this dude hit me with a skateboard and I kneed him in the face. And like, yeah, you're fighting a bunch of dumb fucking kids that are also drunk.
Right. They don't know how to fight either.
That doesn't make you a badass.
No, it doesn't.
It makes you lucky to a certain extent that I never did get stabbed or hit with a bat over the head.
Absolutely.
But it also, like I said, it does make you tough, and being gritty and tough is a good thing. It's a good attribute to have. But yeah, man, like training at an academy and putting in the hours on the mats and actually developing a skill set teaches you so much about yourself.
Very, very much. And like on that, like here's something that I actually was involved today at work where because of training jiu-jitsu, I acted in what I would say the appropriate way. Mm-hmm. Had this been 5 years ago, and the whole situation today would have been far different.
All right, let's hear it.
So here's the deal. I don't wear a mask anywhere, period. I don't wear it at work. I've told them if it's that big of a deal, you tell me when to pack up my tools, I'll head out. I can still go there every morning. I do my job the best of my ability. I'm nice to everyone. I respect everyone. If you want to wear a mask, you want to stay 6 feet apart, hey, no problem. We don't have to have the same opinions. I still respect you as a human being.
Of course.
So that's kind of been the rules that I've been playing this game by. Well, if you go into the office, different rules apply. So I work in the shop.
Yep.
If you go into the office, different rules apply.
Meaning when you go in the office, they want you to have a mask on?
Yes.
Okay. And so do you wear a mask?
So no, I don't.
So this is, okay. So I'm just painting, I'm trying to understand the whole picture here.
So here's the deal. So no, I don't wear a mask. And it's been an issue. Okay. Once again, tell me when to pack my tools. I'll be more than happy to leave. I'm not going to put your mask on. I'm sorry. If you're that, I don't need to get into it with you guys. I was doing a stainless steel railing. We just moved buildings. We were in Woodinville, and we now are in Monroe.
Okay.
And I made a nice stainless steel railing for the inside of the office. And when I was working on it, I didn't have my mask on, and one of the women upstairs got all mad, whatever, got the superintendent. Long story short, I got in trouble. And then there was a big meeting about me not following the rules. And if I was to continue not following it, I will be fired on the spot for insubordination, and I will collect no unemployment, and I will no longer, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think I will not be eligible to work within the union anymore. Mm-hmm. Okay, tell me when to pack my tools. I'm not putting it on.
It sounds oddly familiar.
And, there's people out there saying you're willing to literally drop a 6-figure income. You're a husband, and you take care of 3 kids, and you provide for all of them. I'm not into communism.
Well, bro, and that's the biggest problem with this whole thing is that, and again, the whole mask thing, like, I mean, I had a guest on last week who was a doctor who believes in masks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what you said. You have your opinion, I have my opinion.
Yep.
That doesn't mean we have to be enemies or we have to hate each other. But the thing is that it's almost becoming a foreign concept to have a belief system that's rooted in something and then stand up for that. If you stand behind your words and you're willing to put everything that you are and that you have behind those words, like, that's a foreign concept now. Like, everyone thought it was crazy when I was like, I'm not taking my fucking video down.
Mm-hmm.
How can I take that fucking video down when the whole point of that video was you need to stand up for what you believe is right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a problem in our entire society that your bi-week or bi-monthly paycheck and your pension basically disallow you to be who you really are.
That's it. It dictates you.
Yeah, you have to conform to the system. And obviously we have to conform somewhat or we'd all be out shooting people that we didn't like and people be raping people. Like, yeah, I understand that there's a balance, right? But you shouldn't have to be forced to do things that you think are unethical and then not be able to have a voice about that, you know?
Right. And so with that being said, after our little meeting, I came back and we talked about it. I tried my best just to avoid going in the office. Well, today I had to use the restroom, and in the shop we just have a little one. So if someone's in it, you can't use it.
Mm-hmm.
So the door to the office is right around the corner. Okay, there's a bathroom right on the other side of that door. So I'm like, oh, fuck it. So I walk over there. I stick my nose lift my shirt up over my nose and mouth because I don't have a mask.
Mm-hmm.
They're lucky they got that. And I go to walk in the bathroom. Well, all of a sudden I hear, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. And I turn around and my superintendent, who is 65 maybe, has followed me into the bathroom stall, closed the door, and is now proceeding to try and rip me a new one in the bathroom, just me and him. Well, I just can't believe that he's actually this mad. I thought he was going to cry. And for me to see a 65-year-old man get all bent out of shape and lump up in the throat when he's talking to me over a mask, I just never thought. Like, when I think of my grandparents, and maybe we're just came from a different place, there's no way in hell you would have seen that.
Yeah.
Whatever. I just said, okay. Well, he is so mad, he decides he's going to shove me out of the bathroom. So as soon as he shoves me, I look back at him.
So he puts his hands on you.
Yes.
So you walked in. Did you even use the restroom yet?
No.
Okay,
no.
so he just follows you in and then he pushes you back out.
He yells at me, and then
that's bizarre.
I said, dude, I got to use the bathroom. And he's like, you can't use this bathroom. You have to use the office bathroom or the shop bathroom. Well, mind you, this isn't his office. We have like 20 office people.
Yeah.
Who all have their own cubicles. There's like 3 different bathrooms.
Yeah, relax.
Yeah. So I go to like turn, and he just like kind of like shoves me on my shoulder, which doesn't really shove me. It just kind of does one of these. But under the circumstances and the negative environment, I understand what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
I go back to jiu-jitsu. I stopped. I must have assessed the situation for a second and didn't come unglued, and just told him, don't ever fucking put your hands on me again. You understand me? And that was that.
Uh-huh.
And I turned around and I walked away. If this was 5 years ago, I would have hit him.
Uh-huh.
Even though he's an old man. As far as I'm concerned, any person on the planet, if you are not looking to fight somebody,
don't put your hands on them.
Don't put your hands on them.
And don't put your hands on my kids.
Exactly.
Those two things are going to be a fight. Regardless of who you are.
It doesn't matter where you're from. No, it doesn't matter. Because of jiu-jitsu, I truly believe the ability to
just de-escalate
or remain calm in uncomfortable situation. And I don't have anything to prove.
Yeah.
What am I gonna fucking ankle pick this old man? Like, so I don't know. I find jujitsu has been an incredible help in health, fitness, mental, spiritual. I feel like it's helped my marriage. It's helped me with the children. I don't have so much less like pent up energy. I sure as hell I'm not looking to fight anybody.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I was living in California, I had such a long commute before I'd get to practice that a lot of times I'd call my wife and we'd just be talking on my way home. Mm-hmm. And just based on my demeanor, there's times she's like, hey, you're going to practice, right?
Yeah.
That's a nice way of saying, like, get your ass to practice.
That's right.
Because you come home and you've been dealing with whatever you've been dealing with throughout your whole day. And that's where you get to just go decompress and dump it all out. And then when you get home, you're good.
Yeah.
You know? Dude, I can't tell you how many times. And it's not like we live like these super stressful lives. Because, I mean, it's the first time in it's like the safest time in human history, right?
It sure is.
We don't have to worry about like rival hordes coming over the hill and taking our women and chopping us up with axes and stuff, right? Yeah. But because we don't have real conflict that we face on a regular basis, I feel like we create it in our own mind.
Absolutely.
And I talked about that on my episode where I was talking about like mental health. But dude, I'll be bummed out about, I mean, whatever, dude, the kids, this, and me and the wife got into it over that. Just stuff that's like every single person deals with. And I'll leave here and I'll go to practice and I'll be in a shitty mood on the drive there. Mm-hmm. I mean, mind you, it's only a 7-minute commute, right?
Still.
But sometimes I'll be like, oh, fuck this, dude. I don't feel like teaching tonight. I don't want to see anyone.
Yep.
And then the second I walk upstairs, I come around the corner and I see like 20 people sitting there. Everyone has smiles on their face. Hey, what's up, Greg? We all sit down. We start talking. I'm like, all right, hey, this is the moves we're going to go over tonight. Suddenly, all of that bullshit from your day is gone.
It's gone.
It's gone, dude.
It is.
And by the time I come home, and Jenny will be like, how's practice? I'm like, it was awesome.
It's great.
Yeah, I'm in a great mood now. You know?
It's so weird how that happens.
And if you don't, the thing is, once you start training, you feel that and you can identify that. Mm-hmm. You can almost quantify it, you know? But if people aren't doing something like that, it almost sounds like witchcraft or like hocus pocus, right? You know? But that's why, I mean, if you look at anybody that trains jiu-jitsu, they all have the same story. And that's why anybody that has a big platform like your Jocko or Rogan or Tim Kennedy, like all these guys that have millions of eyes on them, mm-hmm. They're all saying the same thing.
Yes, they are.
Just go train jiu-jitsu.
Go train jiu-jitsu.
You know?
There has to be something behind it, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I'm an advocate for that. That's why I show up. If I would have whooped Joe's ass when I went up there in that kid's class, you would have never seen me at jiu-jitsu.
Nope, of course not. And dude, it's funny you say that because that is exactly what I tell people when they come and they train and they get their ass kicked and then they're bummed out about it. Mm-hmm. This is what I say to them. I say, listen, you're donating your time and you're paying money to learn this art. If this art was something that you could defeat on your first week of training, it's a waste of time and a waste of money.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't be having any success right now. And if you were having success, then you shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Just like you said, I wouldn't come if I would have whooped Joe's ass, I wouldn't have came back.
No, I would not.
You know?
And then you get the other side where, okay, I'm going to do this and you get to start at the bottom.
Uh-huh.
And I totally see why people quit out of it too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's rough, right? It's hard. It's
the biggest thing that I think is tough for people, the hurdle that's tough for people to overcome is that anxious response that you get when someone has their knee on your face or on your diaphragm and you can't move and fight or flight's kicking in.
Yep.
You can't get away from them and they can beat you in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
Sure is.
And bro, like as the black belt that owns the academy, I don't find myself there very often anymore mm-hmm. because I'm able to keep people off my back now. I'm able to not find myself being mounted very often. But the thing that I realize is when I do go with guys that can pour it on me, mm-hmm. I don't have as much resilience to that as I used to when I was getting my ass kicked all the time.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a blessing and a curse as you start to get really good at jiu-jitsu, because on one hand, you're not finding yourself in these bad situations. You're not getting tapped out all the time. Mm-hmm. But now I'm kind of losing that. I'm losing that grit.
Right. When someone gets you a knee belly
because I remember it was like a couple months ago, we did rotation training where we were starting on each other's backs, and you started on my back and you sunk that choke in and you strangled my ass.
Yes,
dude.
I did.
And I was like, I had to think about that. Like, I came home and I thought about that. And part of me is like, well, Tyler is a fucking metal worker. His hands are strong as fuck. Like, that dude gets on your lapel, I don't care who you are, it's a problem, right? Mm-hmm. So I know that that's the case. But then the other side of it is, like, you're a black belt and he's a blue belt. You should have escaped from that.
Yeah.
So why didn't you? And I think it just comes down to, I don't put myself there enough.
Right. Other than that, I don't ever see someone on your back.
No. And it starts to make you think about how you need to roll a little bit, because we talked about this the other week, because you and I had a very like fun roll.
Yeah.
Where we just went light with each other. We were throwing up different submissions and we weren't trying to kill each other and we weren't going 100%. And afterwards you said, I think I learned more rolling at that speed with you than when we try and murder each other. And if I think about rolling at that speed and putting myself in bad situations, or not even putting myself, but just allowing people to work. Right. Then that's going to force me to have answers to those situations. Mm-hmm. Because most people at our academy, I can pass their guard and hold them in side control and then arm bar them.
Yep.
And if that's all that I look for on a roll, it's like, hey, cool, you can pass a blue belt's guard and then you can arm bar them. But what is that doing for both of us to grow? You know?
He's getting better at blocking that arm bar.
Of course. Yeah.
That's how because of you. No, you're about the only person that I think arm bars me anymore, strictly because of that.
Yeah, and for anyone listening, I'm a one-trick pony.
I'm not the bread cutter in there.
I'm not a Keenan Cornelius with 3,000 different moves. I have an arm bar. But, I like rolling like that. I like honing one weapon and just getting sharp as shit with it, you know? But as far as, like, looking for the balance of, do we roll really hard or do we roll light or somewhere in between? I think the biggest answer is, or the correct answer, I should say, is you need a little bit of everything.
I think so.
You know, like Rogan has talked about it, where he says he thinks his jiu-jitsu gets the best kicking the shit out of blue belts. Mm-hmm. That's where he finds he makes the most growth, because that really allows him to like expand his game and be like, okay, this is a technique that I'm working on and I want to try and hit this at a live speed with someone.
Right.
But I've also found that my game developed by leaps and bounds when I was with like Marcus, Bushesha, and Joao and those dudes that just smashed the shit out of me. And it's like, maybe offensively going with those guys wasn't really good, but the ability to just weather the storm, like, that's a real thing.
And that goes back to what you're talking about of like grit in here. That's not like, maybe jiu-jitsu can help you kind of guide that attribute along.
Uh-huh.
But that's just something that you got to like either build or have, or
yeah,
they don't prime that shit.
Nope. Yeah, they always say you can't teach heart, and I don't know what the right answer is on that, because you do see guys come in that, RJ, if you're listening, granted he was 13,
right,
and he was little fat RJ back then, and he didn't bring anything to the table. He's a little fat 13-year-old, and he is stuck with it, and he's been with us for 5 years now. He's a grown-ass man that's in nasty shape, and I think RJ is one of those guys that defines heart.
Right.
You can't, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like, you can beat him, but you can't break him.
No.
And I think that was probably just a byproduct, because when his dad signed him up, he's like, hey, he's 13, but I want him training in the adult class.
Oh, really?
Yeah. With his brother, who at the time, I think 7 was 15.
Okay.
He's like, they're good kids. They'll listen to you, like, but I want them with the adults. I'm like, let's do it. And so they've been with the adults ever since they were kids. And now they're 2 of the nastiest guys in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so growing up, I mean, think about growing up from 13 on those mats, dealing with that every day. I think you can teach art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. Like I said, I think RJ clearly probably already had heart a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the help of guidance and coaches and friends and jiu-jitsu, it just...
Yeah, for sure, dude.
It'll show you sooner or later.
Yeah.
Once you get knee on belly for a while and you're like, do I tap or do I just grind it out?
And if you ever tap to something like that, it'll haunt you. It'll haunt you. Bro, I tapped to lockdown. Do you know, just straight lockdown.
Yeah.
When I was a white belt. This guy threw a lockdown in and started squeezing my calf. And I'm like, I tapped. And I'm like, what was that? And he's like, wasn't it? There's nothing. It's just lockdown, dude. And it felt like my calf muscle was going to just explode, right? And I mean, I'm talking about it 17 years later or whatever.
You still remember that
it's
day.
haunting me. And Boucher used to say that. It's like, if you can get someone to tap by your crossface, you're not just submitting them, but you're touching their pride.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know you had some things in your mind. Let's start going over some of that, because we're already at 47 minutes of jiu-jitsu.
Damn. Okay. Well, let's start with since you're one of my only military friends, I want to see what a veteran who still is alive and lives in America today, what they would describe freedom and liberty to them. What is freedom and liberty to you, like for you personally?
I think that's actually a fairly easy question, because I think what freedom and liberty in our country is, because we're a democratic republic. We're not a democracy, right? And the reason we're not a democracy is because it's not majority rules here, right? If 51% of the population thought that we should bring slavery back, we shouldn't be able to bring slavery back. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think what liberty is your right and your unalienable right to pursue the things that you want to pursue, your peace and your happiness and your career and your family and your hobbies, as long as it doesn't infringe on anybody else. And it's a pretty simple concept, right? I mean, go do your thing. And if you're not fucking bothering other people or causing any type of problems, then you should be able to do that. And that's why, I mean, I don't necessarily ever kind of pigeonhole myself with a political affiliation, or like I'm a libertarian or I'm a Republican. Right. But I feel like people should be able to do whatever they want. Yeah. You want to have 3 wives? Cool. You want to be in a marriage with 5 men? Go ahead. Mm-hmm. You want to shoot heroin? Go ahead. Like, and I mean that's a rabbit hole that we could start discussing for the next 6 hours, because we see what happens when you tolerate heroin. Right.
You can't actually live the life that we're talking of without. I have yet to see a heroin addict be able to do it without it in
exactly right
bleeding out onto some other shit.
But my point is that I don't think the act of using a drug should be what gets you in trouble. No. It should be when you start smashing people's windows and taking the change out of their cup holders. Zero tolerance for that kind of stuff. Absolutely. Zero tolerance for thieves. Zero tolerance for people abusing people. Like, all the things that come with addiction, hammer them. But I feel like we don't need the government telling us how we need to live our lives on every little thing. You know, like, it's the frog in the pot analogy. And I feel like that's what the U.S. government's doing to everybody.
I would 100% be on board with that.
Because it's little bits of our freedoms and liberties being chipped away, where it doesn't feel like, okay, you're not marching me into a concentration camp. I still get to go get in my 4Runner and drive to jiu-jitsu and take my girls out to ice cream, and I can go hiking. Like, life feels pretty good, right? But just because a lot of things are going good, I don't think we can turn a blind eye to the things that are going bad.
Right. Because
one day you're going to wake up and it's going to be so far gone that it's going to be that much harder to take back. It's like a military analogy. Like, you never give up ground, because retaking that ground is exponentially more difficult than maintaining that ground. And I feel like we're not maintaining our ground on our freedoms and our liberties. Mm-hmm. You know?
Do you think that is the responsibility of the American citizens?
100%. I think it's such a responsibility that I actually am kind of ashamed of myself.
For what?
For sitting back and allowing our country to implode in the way that it did. I mean, the only person that took up arms against all these shitheads that have been ruining our fucking cities for the last 3 or 4 months was a 17-year-old kid. And when I saw him out there dumping those dudes that were throwing Molotov cocktails, and I mean, people listening know that I'm a pretty conservative person, right?
Yeah.
Like, the left is painting that kid out to be a white supremacist, and I mean, I don't know how you can paint him out to be a white supremacist. He's a white guy that shot other white people.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like, you see these people that are victimizing people. They're destroying our cities. They're like, so many of those small business owners, they're already struggling because of COVID. Mm-hmm. And now you're going to spray paint and smash their windows out and burn their places down. I feel like that's a personal responsibility for us to defend that.
I think so as well. And I'm not a veteran.
But you don't have to be a veteran, dude. You just have to be a guy that sees the bullshit and it says, when is enough, you know?
I thought it would already have been enough, to be honest.
I did too. And it's like, was I waiting for somebody else to lead the charge? Or should I have got a group of 15 people to go down to Seattle when they were burning our city down and confront them? Like, I don't know what the right answer is. Right. Because it's a scary proposition, right? Because I already know how I react to violence. Mm-hmm. I already know what it's like to be in combat engagements, in gunfights. Like, I'm confident in myself when it reaches that point that I will be able to perform on the field of battle, right? But that's not what's scary to me. Mm-hmm. What's scary is, at what point am I willing to give up everything for this cause? Uh-huh. Because it's a different world for me now. Just like you, I got 3 babies at home, right? And their safety is dependent on me. Mm-hmm. And so if things go to absolute shit, I have to be there for them. You know, I did that podcast with Mike Glover a couple of weeks ago on survival preparedness. And he talks about all these little things that are important to have an understanding of and to be prepared in if we do find our country falling into turmoil. And if I go lead the charge down in downtown Seattle because you got a bunch of assholes throwing bricks at people, and you go down there and you shoot 3 or 4 of them, and I think that's what needs to happen, right?
I do as well.
But if I do that, what's going to happen? The U.S. government is going to come after me with every single ounce of their power, mm-hmm. and they're going to lock me up, and they're going to make an example of me. Yep. So then I have 2 choices. I'm going to jail, or I'm going to have a shootout with a bunch of cops.
Right.
And I'll tell you guys listening, like, most veterans are on the side of the people, but most veterans also have a reoccurring nightmare of having a shootout with police officers. Like, that's just kind of how we're wired. You know what I mean? But I thought about all that stuff. Do I go to Chaz mm-hmm. with my 308 and a backpack with 30 magazines and just I feel like it would take 6 dudes with weapons and tactics to just shut that shit down now. That's all it would take. But then you're going to lose everything that you've worked for, because you know damn well that the government is going to come after you. Just like Kyle Rittenhouse, that kid's sitting in a jail cell.
Because why is it only, for instance, you say, should I have grabbed 6 dudes and went down there and took care of it? Why is it only 6 dudes? It might, it's like, not 6 dudes if you took down, but why is there not way, way more people who is like, I'm right there with them. They can't pay us all out.
I think, and maybe this is just wishful thinking, but I think that the silent majority is just waiting, and they're being very patient, and they're being very tolerant, and they're, for lack of a better word, they are, and we are, because I'm part of it, allowing this to kind of unfold and kind of waiting to see how it plays out.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of people that are ready to say, fuck you, if the time comes. And when that time comes, it circle back to my first video, dude, where I was like, once you awaken the sleeping giant, there's nothing the military can do. There's nothing law enforcement can do. There's certainly nothing that fucking politicians can do. Like, the power of this country rests in the hands of the American people and nothing else.
Right.
And that's a concept that a lot of people are not in fucking touch with anymore. You had Nancy Pelosi in a hair salon getting her hair did last week on camera. Did you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when she got called out on it, what did she say? I got set up. They owe me an apology. It's like, that's how arrogant, and that's how the lack of humility that the people that are running this country have.
Yeah.
The American people can't take that forever. Our patience with that kind of shit is going to run out, because I have friends right now that have lost their jiu-jitsu academies. I know guys that their dreams no longer exist because the government forced their shutdown. Gyms, like your gym can't be open. And then you saw the article that came out, I think it was yesterday, that's like government gyms have been open all through COVID.
Yeah, I've seen that.
You know what I mean? Like, how much more are we going to be shit on while these people just do whatever they want?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the biggest problem with me from the beginning, is being a cop, because it was like, oh, I'm kind of on their team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not going to be on their team. I'm on the team of the fucking people.
Because it's at least 6 months in now. I think we are. We started this in March.
Yeah.
To me, it's blatantly clear. They don't give a shit about the people.
They don't give a shit about the people. And that's the biggest problem with this. And if you listen to the episode that's coming out on Thursday, it's with my best friend who's a doctor. And he talks about like the factual approach to COVID, right? He talks about what it was like watching people die every day. Just the amount of sick people, the lack of equipment that they had. Because he was in New York. He was in the epicenter, right?
Yep.
And so when people say, like, this is a hoax and this is bullshit, I know that that's not true either. Because he was the best man at my wedding. We've been friends since we were little kids. I know what he says is true. But what I also know is true is that our government has seized this opportunity. They said, okay, this is kind of a fucked up situation. Watch this. Mm-hmm. And they started orchestrating all these things, and they started basically politicizing it from the beginning.
Yes, they did.
And and maybe I need to put on my tinfoil hat, but I think they politicized it in order to win the election in November, And it was like, if you don't want to wear a mask, it's because you don't care about people. And so they started making it pitting people against each other, right? So then, like, guys like you, for instance, like, well, no, it has nothing to do with me not caring about people. It's my right to choose what I want to wrap around my head and what I want to wrap around my kid's head. So then you have this immediate pushback, right? And I talked about this on last week's episode. If the government would have said this to us, if they would have said to you, Tyler, hey, listen, we think this disease is communicable by saliva and breathing, and if you're coughing, or if you're close, if you're within 6 feet of someone, it's going to increase the chances that they get it. So we would really appreciate people maintaining distance. We also Our scientists have also come to the determination that wearing a mask on your face could help prevent the spread of this. So we are begging you guys and pleading, please wear a mask if you're in public. Done. I think everybody would have a mask on their face. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a different thing than if you don't mask up, it's a misdemeanor. And if you don't mask up, we're shutting your business down. It's like, those things are night and day. Because when you come at me and you tell me, hey, okay, yeah, my jiu-jitsu academy, it might not be this fucking world famous, renowned academy with hundreds of students, but what it is, it's something that I created. It's something that's fucking special to me. Mm-hmm. And the people that I share the mats with are special to me. And you're telling me you're going to shut that down? Fuck you. That's the initial reaction from guys like me. That's the initial reaction from guys like you.
Yeah, because those are... I have a really big issue when someone tells you what you can and can't do when it comes to providing for yourself and your family.
Exactly.
That's where my issue lies.
And for me, the biggest issue started to take place when they started telling us what to do, but it didn't apply to them.
That right?
We saw that over and over and over. And so it reaches a point where it's like, even if what you're saying is rooted in science, even if what you're saying you do believe to be like the correct thing, well, guess what? Leadership 101. Never ask your men to do something you're not willing to do yourself. So if you're not willing to do it yourself, don't fucking ask me to do it. Mm-hmm. Period. It's that simple. And I think basic like military leadership, like how a sergeant talks to a private, our Senate and our governors and our elected officials need to go read some basic military leadership manuals. Because, I mean, that's basic stuff. Don't ask me to do something you're not willing to do yourself, period. And if they would approach this whole situation with a little bit of humility and approach it like that, we wouldn't have any of the issues that we're having. There wouldn't be people that are like giving all this pushback because there wouldn't be reason for pushback, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's other things too. Like, I was just talking to my brother about this. When I see, like, you know, doctors getting paid X amount of dollars to provide a ventilator or X amount of dollars to sign as a COVID-19 death certificate, pretty much just a bunch of bullshit going on. It makes it even more hard for me to want to wear a mask.
Well, it's because the whole thing starts to lose validity, you know?
Yeah.
Because as soon as it appears that they're using this virus to somehow benefit themselves or benefit their party, now I don't want to listen to anything you have to say. And that's human nature, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I don't know, if you look at everything in this country has been politicized. No matter what the issue is, if you're on the left, this is your viewpoint. And if you're on the right, this is your viewpoint. And I feel like the one thing that everybody was getting sick of was all this COVID shit. Mm-hmm. And I remember before it got politicized, I had friends on the right and the left that are like, what are they doing shutting businesses down? What are they doing? Like, what is this track and trace stuff? Like, everybody was equally concerned. And then sure as shit, just like they always do, they were able to, if you're on the left, you need to support wearing a mask. And if you're on the right, you need to be defiant to wearing a mask. And before you know it, the whole COVID thing was divided up between the parties too, and just keeping everyone at each other's throats.
I think it's bullshit because I get all the time, at least every day, whether it's something I post or a story or something I said, okay, you stupid Trump supporter. Well, guess what, bitch? I didn't even fucking vote for anybody. I didn't vote for Trump or Obama or Hillary.
Yeah.
I didn't. So what do you mean, Trump supporter? Please tell me again. Because I don't want to wear a mask, that means that I'm a conservative, or because, whatever else it is that I'm, like you said, a liberal over here. Because I think that if you want to smoke weed, go ahead.
Yeah.
Now I'm some hippie who wants to fucking hug a tree. Like, dude.
But bro, that's and it almost appears that we're to a point where all this stuff is calculated. Because if you keep the American people and to circle back to going out into the streets and shooting these people that are looting, I actually had that conversation with myself too. Is that if you go out on the streets and you partake in violence, you are giving in to what they want you to do.
That's what they want. That's what they want.
That's what they want. What frightens them more than me going out in the streets and stacking bodies like cordwood is for guys on the right like us to go have meaningful discussion with people on the left.
Yep.
And build like relationships with them. That's what's fucking terrifying to
Unity.
them. Yeah.
When they realize that 350 million people are all against them, they no longer have the power.
No.
They only have the power because we give them the power.
Well, they have the power because we're at each other's throats about everything. Like, oh, if you think gay people should be married, you have to be a part of this group. If you don't, then you have to be part of that group. If you're pro-gun, you're part of this group. If you want to support the environment, you're part of that group. And it's like every single little issue is just like dividing people. And bro, to take it back to jiu-jitsu, like we have people on our team that are very left, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
they won't even come back until they get the COVID-19 vaccine. I just got the message yesterday.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But what do we find when we're on the mats and we're training and we're talking to each other face to face? Homies, dude.
No.
It's all good,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But when you're all sitting at home and you're being fucking spoon-fed shit through your television and through your Instagram feed,
Yep.
you start butting heads with people that you like. Hey, bro, what the fuck? Why did you say that? Why do you think this? I saw you in a MAGA hat. Like, you're smarter than that. Like, all these little things that start happening. That's not real.
No.
The real is when we're all sitting up there laughing, training, getting along. And I feel like they don't want that.
No, they don't.
And in our little academy might just be a little microcosm of that. But you can see when people aren't unified and when we're not seeing each other, we're not spending time with each other, we're not talking. Bro, there's people that I've been friends with for a long time that I've wanted to be like, I'm deleting them from Facebook.
Yep.
And I'm not talking to them anymore. And then I have to check myself and be like, bro, that's what this is all about.
Right. Because he likes chocolate chip cookies and you don't?
Yeah. Like I got in an argument with one of my friends. She's pretty liberal. And it was over the Kyle Rittenhouse thing.
Okay.
And then I went into the mountains and I didn't have cell service for like 48 hours or whatever. Mm-hmm. And she's like, hey, we're good, right? You're not mad at me? And I didn't see it for like 2 days, right? So then I got back and I was like, and then so she said something else like, so that's it? Or I don't remember what it was exactly.
Right.
But like we're going to write off each other's friendship because of a difference of opinion on whether a 17-year-old on the other side of the country should have shot those guys or not. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
And fuck, man. I mean, if it does explode into violence one day, well, you're going to have a side.
Yeah.
You're going to have a belief system that you stand behind. It's all necessary, but at the same time, until we're slinging lead back and forth, oh, fuck, man, we got to figure out a way to get along.
That's it. Is that I truly believe that, and I've had this talk as well many times, is that I'm all about peace and love. I love my children. I love my friends. I like to be in harmony, on an even keel. I don't really want to be all pissed off and stressed out and, like you said, cortisol up.
Bro, I think we all want to be there.
I think so too.
That's a natural desire for human beings.
But you cannot win certain things. For instance, I've talked about like in combat, right? Which I haven't personally gone, but I understand people are fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, peace. Okay, if someone has a Wilson Combat 308 pointed at your face and they're gonna shoot you, throwing your peace bomb at them is not gonna do anything.
No,
you're gonna die.
There's a time for combat.
There is.
Yep.
So, like you said, in the meantime, be a little more kind, smile a little more, try your best to be on your...
Well, bro, it's like, I always say, I feel like William Wallace when he came back Remember when he came back to his village and he's like, they said, Wallace, we have a town meeting and we want you there tonight. It's about standing up against the English. And he's like, I don't want to fight. I came back to grow crops, have a farm, and God willing, a family.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't want to keep mixing it up and be in the fight.
Right.
And then they killed his woman and just, okay, now it's fucking on.
That's
dude.
it.
And that is why every young man, like at least in my generation, you watch Braveheart, you want to go sign up for the military and go to war because it's like, that's the essence of it. Hey, I want to be cool. I want to just live my life. But now you fucked with me.
Yeah.
And now it's on. And that was like what 9/11 was for our country.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I also notice now with the masculinization of men. I just see a lot of men who don't have it in them.
You know what? And maybe this is just a generational thing, starting to show my age. But you know what I think one of the biggest tools that has divided our country is this thing. It's the internet. It's our phones. Because for the first time in human history, you can just be an absolute cocksucker to somebody with zero repercussions. And that's not a normal human interaction, because I shouldn't be able to get aggressive and rude with you unless I'm willing to face that. Yeah. Like some of the messages that come into my inbox, like if I were to say those to your face, you are 100% going to punch me in the mouth. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And like, I know that. And that's why, I mean, and there are times when I say shit to people that is trying to instigate them to fight. Yeah. Like, but that's with an understanding this might go to combat, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Like, I got a message today and I'm taking Andy Stump's advice. Okay. He told me, he's like, bro, don't respond to any of them. Okay. He goes, they don't want like a logical dialogue. They just want to fucking poke and be, I mean, they're internet trolls, right? Yeah. I got this message today and it said, you know, you used to stand up for something. You used to use your platform for people's rights and for liberty. And now you don't say shit anymore. You basically become a male version of a Karen and your head's up your own ass. And I'm just like, what? And I'm like, dude, I'm just a guy. Like I keep reiterating that just because I made an 8-minute video that a lot of people identified with, that doesn't put me on some pedestal. You know, he said, yeah, your fame has went to your head. Oh, your fame. He said that. And I'm like, my fame, I still hang out with the same group of people. I hang out with my family and my jiu-jitsu guys. Like nothing has changed in my life, right? The reason that blew up is because it resonated with a lot of people. It wasn't about me. It's showing what the country felt.
Yeah, you know? Had validity behind it.
Yeah, a lot of people felt that same way. So when I was the guy that was able to say that message, it resonated with a lot of people. That's it. That doesn't mean I'm like the rest of my life, my Instagram needs to be about defending the Constitution. Like when the time comes, I know where I'm at on things. But it was last night. I was at the Novak's house and I posted a picture of our dogs staring at each other's faces.
Yeah, I seen it.
And that's where he posted that at.
On there?
Yeah. I already deleted it because I don't deal. But it's like, hey, I'm still just a guy with dogs and kids. Like
hanging out.
You know what I mean? Things. Like, what do you want? What do you want out of me? And but the whole point of going off on that tangent, never in my life has someone said that kind of shit to my face. And they won't.
They won't.
And we've created a culture where you can just be fucking vehemently rude to people with zero consequences. I mean, I think that's the whole reason why our cities are burning, because you got these 17 to 23-year-old kids that grew up on the internet, however they feel is right, and they can say whatever they want, they can get away with whatever they want. And so now they're throwing bricks through windows and lighting places on fire. If you did that 50 years ago, the store owners would have been stacking those bodies in the streets.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. I think it's... I don't understand how more people are not standing up against it. Honestly, I cannot fathom how people are just watching it happen.
Well, and so like I said, I had a lot of reflection and I thought about what my role is in all of this. And one of the hard lines that I drew for myself was, if people want to defend their businesses, then they need to be willing to defend them.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I putting my livelihood and my life on the line when they're not down there themselves?
Oh, for sure.
And so I said, you know what? I own a business. And if it ever comes to a point where people think they're going to be throwing bricks through the windows, that's where I draw the line. They will be fucking dead out in the field.
Yep.
I'm absolutely not going to tolerate that at my business. Like, I built that place literally from the ground up. And again, it's not some fucking multi-million-dollar facility. It's just my little academy.
Right.
It's ours. And if you think you're going to destroy it, I'll fucking destroy you. Period. You know what I mean?
And I guess that's what maybe the business owners that this is happening to, maybe they're not willing to die for their business.
Yeah.
And so then I guess it's like, well, then you get what you fucking deserve.
You get what you fucking deserve is right, dude. You know? And you also get what you deserve by continuing to vote in incompetent leadership.
That's right, too.
Like our city council, the city of Seattle's city council are fucking lunatics, dude.
They're psychopaths, man.
And you vote those people into power, and you expect our city to run smoothly? You expect there to be the rule of law and order? Of course not. So what do you expect? And when our country and our cities and our states continue to vote incompetence in, there's a part of me that's like, you get what you fucking deserve, dude.
That's it.
And you look at Portland, and you look at Seattle, and you look at these cities that are just imploding. Every single one of them has a track record of voting in incompetent leadership. So on one hand, I want to strap up and put my body armor on. And then the other hand, almost sitting back and saying, this is what you get.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I would hope that it would be a self-correcting error, and that people would have people that have common sense will look and say, okay, well, this last year didn't go very well for our city, and the people that were in charge didn't seem to have the solutions. Let's try something different.
Yeah.
And election's coming. So is that going to happen? I don't know.
I don't know either.
And, and I think, again, being a conservative person that leans right on most things, I mean, my grandparents were fucking lifelong Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it didn't matter who was running. That they're voting Democrat on the ticket, right? But they were hardworking people. They were good people. They had like good morals, good values. They just identified with the Democratic Party. And so those people are out there, right?
Yeah.
And those people can't watch the cities burn and say, yeah, this makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, the people that are middle of the road are looking at these situations and saying, what the hell is going on here?
It seems to me like the left side is different than, like you said, your grandparents.
Yeah, it's a different culture now.
You got a bunch of, dudes running around with rainbow dildos and chicks with fucking Kool-Aid packets in their hair, drinking soy latte, getting mad at you for looking at them.
Strange times, man.
And it's like, okay, like you said, do whatever you want. If as long as you're not harming or putting anyone else at danger, go ahead. But by you being this way and electing these people and putting them into place, that's why you're repeatedly seeing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
With these crazy people.
Well, and I do think, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate from saying this, but this is a systematic destruction of the American family.
100%.
And I've never been on board thinking like that was what was happening. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And it happened to the black family. Like, and they want to act like, the Democratic Party wants to act like that they're for minorities and they're for the inner cities and they're for the ghettos. No. Look what they've done to those cities.
Yeah.
They've destroyed the family unit. And once you destroy the family unit, I mean, this isn't me. This is statistics.
Absolutely.
When you have a broken home and you have divorce and you have both parents working now and you have like, you just don't have the stability that we've had throughout the entire history of our country, right? And so what happened to me last week was my wife goes into my daughter's room and there's a LGBTQ whatever on the wall.
Like poster? Or?
Yeah, that she painted.
Okay.
And again, as a person that is a libertarian, you fuck whoever you want.
Yeah.
I have no issues with that, right? When you're an adult, when you're 20 years old and you're a man, you want to marry a man, go do it, man. Like whatever makes you happy.
Right.
What I want to know is why my 11-year-old daughter, who doesn't even understand sexuality yet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, she's been through sex ed. She understands how a baby's made.
Right.
Right. But why is she finding herself in a situation where she has to start wondering, okay, well, there's all these different paths that I could take. And what path am I going to take?
As if it's like a choice.
And then and that's what I told her. Because she goes, well, one of my friends is a lesbian. I said, well, how old is she? She's 10. I said, well, why does she think she's a lesbian? Well, because and she couldn't quite answer it, right? And I said, did a guy do something mean to her at some point? Is she like averse to being close with men? I don't know. I don't think so. So what do you think you are? And she's like, I don't know. I'm not sure what way I'm going to go yet. 11, right? And this is what I told her. I said, well, this is my opinion on it. Mm-hmm. And I said, when you're 20 years old, whatever way you want to go is the way you go, and I'm going to be your dad and I'm going to love you. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you don't even know the way you want to go proves how ridiculous this is.
Yes.
Because once you understand your own sexuality, like there's a 0% chance that after I realized that I was heterosexual as a young man, that I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll be gay next year. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You are who you are and you know who you are.
It's not something you pick.
No. So why does my 11-year-old girl have to go to school and be inundated with all this stuff? And now she's wondering what she's going to be. Dude, just let her become her, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Trust me. People are going to figure out their sexuality. It's like the fucking biggest driving force in human nature. There's no concern that young men and young women are going to discover their sexuality. So why does it have to be on every fucking newspaper, on every fucking overpass? And I wasn't upset about this stuff really until last week because I realized how confused she is.
I mean, I don't know for sure, right? I'm just a sheet metal worker. But it seems with all this, there has to be some type of agenda behind it. Mm-hmm. There has to be. Otherwise, why?
Yeah,
why? And then you see all this pedophile shit that keeps popping up that I've seen, like something called MAPS, which it's like capitals, an abbreviation that stands for minor attracted persons. And it's going on the end of it.
And so that's what it makes you have to raise your eyebrow at it and say, is this all a calculated effort to normalize these strange behaviors? Because, I mean, you saw that thing I shared a day or two ago. There's legislation passed in California where if the child was willing, the person is not going to be registered as a sex offender. Okay? If the child was willing.
Yeah, what child's willing?
Those two, yeah, that sentence, those two things are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they contradict one another.
So what the fuck are you talking about if the child is willing? And it's like, well, it's only for 14 and above. Okay, well, if my daughter will be 14 in a couple years, and if some 24-year-old thinks that he's going to go park somewhere behind a store and fuck around.
No.
That's not considered a sex offender? If that's not considered a sex offender, what is? You know? Mm-hmm. And so it makes you wonder, what are these people's overall agendas? If you're trying to normalize strange behavior, why are you doing it? Mm-hmm. You know? And I mean, and I haven't went down all the rabbit holes with the sex trafficking and the Epstein's Island and stuff. Like, but you also can't avoid it anymore either because there's so many people talking about it, dude. And there are so many prominent people that are caught up in that spider web.
Yep.
That you got to wonder that there's so much shit that's going to come out one day that this is like a last ditch effort to try and normalize a little bit.
Has to be. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. And like I said, I'm not a philosopher. I'm just some dumb guy who welds. But I have a lot of time to think.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think of myself as obviously not Einstein, but I had hoped to not be stupid either.
Yeah.
And with my monkey brain, it seems like if you can defund the police or abolish the police and make pedophilia either legal or
acceptable,
decriminalized, man, you got a lot of people out of some big trouble.
Yeah.
Then again, I could just be wearing a tinfoil hat and it's all
Bro,
coincidence.
I've never conspiracy theories. What I've learned about conspiracy theories is you can convince yourself of almost anything.
You can.
And I've found myself in rabbit holes where then I've kind of had to take a step back and detach a little bit and be like, okay, once you want to believe a certain narrative, it's easy to see the facts that support that narrative.
Sure.
And so I try and remain objective on things. But bro, there's so much shit going on with all of this pedophilia stuff. Like, it's no longer a conspiracy theory.
No, it's not.
It's not. There's so much child sex trafficking, and there's so much cover up going on. It's
literally like the currency for the rich and the elite.
The lid is going to blow off this sooner or later, And the
other thing is, I don't care.
As long as everybody doesn't continue to commit suicide in their jail cell.
Yeah, no shit. And the other thing is, for me personally, and I'm sure you feel the same way, I don't care what law you put into place on pedophilia. You touch my children.
Of course, you're fucking dead.
That's it. I don't care. I will go to prison for however long you need to send me there. I won't blink an eye. It's
Did you see that video that went around the internet like 3 weeks ago?
Mm-mm.
And it's of a guy. He walks up to some guy's porch and he goes, "Why the fuck were you talking to my 6-year-old daughter?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I was just saying hi." And he goes, No. You're a registered sex offender. You're not allowed to talk to kids. And then he starts beating him. And he like stands over the guy in mount and is just slapping him over and over and over. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm sorry. He goes, "If you come around my kids ever again, you're not going to be breathing anymore. I'm going to fucking kill you."
Good on him.
And bro, I mean, that went viral because every single dad that has a set across the country would do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Whether
it's my boys or my girls, I don't get either of them.
Yeah, dude. Well, it's funny you say that because, I mean, I only have girls, so my brain thinks of little girls, right? But little boys get fucking victimized all the time too, man.
Yes.
There's a bunch of creepy fuckers out there that are looking at little boys just like they're looking at little girls.
I know.
We
must rid them of this planet, man.
Well, and I'll tell you what, and people listening might think that I'm crazy, but I'll fucking talk to any police officer that you know. When I was working in Los Angeles, I could walk through our cell block. I could walk through the cell block and just look at people. And I could be like, "Hey, the guy in cell 12 got arrested for fucking kids, didn't he?" Yep. 100% accuracy.
Really?
They have a look to them. Their head is even shaped a little differently.
Really?
Like, bro, there's something off with them. And I'm not saying that to protect them. Mm-hmm. Like, if you have something that's a little off that causes you to rape little kids, well, then you're better off no longer being part of Team Human.
Absolutely.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
But no, there's a certain look that they have. And once you've been around it enough, like I never worked like child sex crimes, but just being a deputy, working warrants, seeing these people come through our cell block enough. And then we had what we would call, it's called sex offender compliance checks.
Okay.
So once you're released, the judge can assign compliance checks for as long as he wants. And what that means is deputies can show up at your house at any time, unannounced, and basically have a full search warrant to your house.
Okay.
And it can look for anything related to like sex trafficking, child porn, basically anything that they were in trouble for, right? And so you can just walk into people's houses unannounced, go in their bedroom, pull their drawers open their laptop. You see some weird shit, man.
Oh, man. I bet.
I'll show you a picture after this. I'll tell you what, if you're listening, I'll post this picture the day this episode drops so people can see the picture that I'm talking about. But I go into this guy's bedroom on a sex offender compliance check, and he has two little horses. Well, they were like little kids, like probably like the size of a 2-year-old kid.
Okay.
Dressed up in like toddler clothing, but they had horse heads.
Oh,
and they were both tucked into his bed. And it's like,
what the fuck?
What the fuck is going on?
Yes. Dude, people are so weird.
I mean, there's so many, dude, there's so many problems
right.
with our country that pedophiles sleeping with little unicorns dressed as kids. Like, I mean, when does it stop, dude? You know? And bro, to tell you the truth, that's part of what makes me want a second American Revolution. It's like, we need a reset, dude.
Yeah, we do. We need a nice purge.
Yeah. I mean, because I just look at it like this. The current state, the current trajectory of our country, it's not sustainable.
No.
And that's not me being doomsday prepper. And that's not me like thinking I'm fucking Nostradamus. I'm just saying, if you look at the last 20 years, the trajectory of our country is not sustainable. So either things turn around or they're going to get real bad. I think that's the only two options, right?
That's it.
And we'll see. Again, I hope we can turn things around peacefully, but there's so much wacky shit going on that it's probably
you got so much division.
Yeah.
Like, you know, someone like you or I, who are really just normal dudes. We're not racist dudes. We're not asshole dudes. We just want to do our own thing, take care of our family, and pretty much do that. Well, that's all great. But then I look, and maybe it's the news. I can't go to all these places to see if what I'm being shown is actually what's going on there. But they all have to want to be nice and respectful as well, too.
Yeah, I think
it's like, man, I don't know.
One thing that I think has really perpetuated the problem in our country is, again, like statistically, right now is one of the safest times to live, right? So, big picture, we shouldn't feel this much fear. But because of the internet and live television and CNN and Fox News, like literally anything that happens anywhere on planet Earth is right in front of your eyes. And that's what you're seeing right now. And that's your reality. And that's what you're interpreting as of today's events, you know? And I mean, think if they did that during like when Genghis Khan was fucking sweeping across Asia and the Middle East, like if every other person on Earth had a means to watch that live, like every single night you're watching a village get raided and everybody, man, woman, child, and animal, because he slaughtered the animals too.
Yeah.
And that was your reality. Every single day you saw that, you'd probably be like, fuck this, you know what I mean?
Let's go hide under a rock.
But I mean, media is a business. And if they focused on positivity, that's probably bad for business.
Probably.
People aren't going to be tuning in. People want to tune in and be like, what's fucked up today?
Yeah, why?
What do I have to be scared about now, you know?
Do you think that has to do with like what we were talking about earlier about it life just being so easy that we're trying to find shit to be like?
Probably to an extent. Yeah, people want that conflict.
Because
they crave conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in our DNA. I mean, from the beginning of time, to eat required conflict. You have to go confront a wild animal. To stay warm, you had to chop wood all summer to not freeze to death. Right. You know what I mean? Like everything was hard. and everybody was trying to kill each other and everyone was dying of disease. Like most of your babies died. Like those people didn't have to manufacture conflict. Conflict was on their front door every fucking morning.
Yes.
And in a matter of 200 years, the world wasn't a pleasant spot until very, very recently.
Yes.
And so now it's like that conflict's removed. And what do we do? And dude, I've never thought of it like that, but I bet you're exactly right. I bet people tune into the evening news because they don't have conflict.
No.
You know?
Nope. Husband went to work. All the bills are paid. Food's in the crock pot. Kids are outside playing. I'm watching Oprah.
Yeah.
I need some fucking bad shit to listen to.
That's right, dude. And I sometimes check myself too because, like we just talked about the child sex trafficking and people victimizing children. So that's on one hand, you have that, right? And then on the other hand, I want my girls to be able to ride their bike around the neighborhood. I want my girls to be able to go to their friend's house and hang out until dinner time. And I say, be home before the sun's down, because that was my rule when I was their age. Right.
Yep.
And so I try and balance that. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it because I do allow them. And hey, you want to go to the park? Go to the park. Check in at this time, or we have a phone that they all share. So whoever's out of the house, have the phone on you, which we didn't have that when we were kids.
No,
but hey, it's available. So I'm going to use it. Right.
Yep.
But I'm trying to balance, like, I don't want to be a helicopter parent. And because if you live in fear and you allow your concern for their safety to prohibit them from living life in a reasonable manner and socializing and growing, I actually think what you're going to do is set them up to be a victim later in life.
Yeah.
Because if you're a helicopter parent your whole life and then they're 19 and they move across the state to go to college, they might not be prepared or socialized properly to be able to encounter those kind of people, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, fuck, dude. Parenting is like
the hardest shit.
It's the hardest shit because every single thing you encounter, there's a dichotomy. And there's validity on both sides. Like, yeah, there's you open up your neighborhood maps and start looking at who's registered sex offenders. Fuck, dude.
Do a little chicken pox of your community.
Yeah, don't do that if you have girls that ride their bike to the park, right? Yes. But at the same time, I also do want to know that, right? You know. But at the end of the day, the only way to keep our girls safe, or your boys too, is to keep them in a padded room.
But you can't do that.
You can't do that. So it's risk mitigation, but you got to let them be people, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember a documentary that I watched where I don't remember what it was, but it's one of those A&E specials or something where they had severe anxiety and they were afraid of everything to the point where they locked themselves in the bathroom. They would shower all day, scrub themselves with soap all day, and their parents had to push food to them that they would flatten out with like a fucking rolling pin under the door. Because that's how afraid they were of confronting anything outside of the bathroom.
Oh, God.
And so that's on one extreme.
Yep.
And then on the other extreme is your kids are just out running amok.
Feral children.
Doing whatever the fuck they want.
Yep.
Somewhere in the middle, and I don't know where that's at, is probably what we want to shoot for.
Yeah.
You know?
It's hard, though.
It's so hard, man.
So you have 3 girls, right?
Yep.
And I'm sure all 3 of them are very different.
Oh, dude. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yes.
The whole nature versus nurture thing. I can tell you, obviously, your rules and your food and your family dynamics, they play a big role in who they grow into. Mm-hmm. But people are fucking born who they are born.
Yes, they are.
That's it, man. Because my girls, same rules, same genetics, same house, and they're couldn't be more different.
Yep.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And not just their personalities, even like their physicalities. Like my middle daughter is just jacked. Like full 6-pack, can do a bunch of dead hang pull-ups and stuff at 8 years old. And then my older daughter is very like normal kid body, what you would expect, you know? And it's like just completely different human beings. It's bizarre.
It is. It's crazy. It's crazy. And to come up with a way of, you have one schedule in one house, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to make all 3 kids. like mine, they like different shit. Okay, well, we're not having a turkey sandwich, a ham sandwich, and a grilled cheese. We're not doing that. So
I'm guilty of that sometimes.
Are you?
Pandering.
See, I'm like,
but I got girls. It's easier to be walked on
I
by
only
your
have
girls.
one girl, and that's the youngest. So for me, it's like, all right, Tinsley.
I think it'd be a lot easier if I had boys being like, "This is what you're gonna fucking eat for dinner."
Yeah, you want to live in my house, or you what I fucking make you?
Yeah. Kids on the other side of the world are starving.
Yeah.
Eat your ham sandwich.
They don't comprehend that.
Yeah.
I brought that up.
Bro, I have brought that up too. And they don't. Because it's just a story that dad's telling them. Mm-hmm. But I try and articulate it as best I can. I'm like, listen. And I'll sit them down and be like, this isn't something I've seen on National Geographic, okay? No. I used to live in these cities or in these countries, and this is what it's like. Like, you're mad because I didn't take you to get the new limited edition LOL at Target today. Mm-hmm. And listen, it's cool that you want a new toy. I like toys when I was a kid, and I support that, and that's why you have a bunch of toys, right? But to be upset because you didn't get the new one today, let me explain to you what the rest of the world's like, you know?
Yeah.
But there's only one way, man, for people to really understand perspective, and it's to go through shit yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Trauma. I'm a firm believer in trauma and tragedy really building you as a character.
Of course it does.
And it's fucked up because
it's real fucked up, dude.
Because no one
wants to go through that.
Nope.
Or should they have to?
Nope.
But it what it does is it offers perspective.
It builds something.
Because when something is taken away from you, it lets you know how important it is. Mm-hmm. And dude, it's so easy to take things for granted, and we're all guilty of it.
Yep.
Like when things are running smooth and you're in your groove, and like it's easy to just, hey, okay, things are cool now, you know? But if something fucked up happens or something's taken from you, just like that, it offers perspective.
Totally
changes. But you don't get that perspective when everything's awesome.
Yep. You don't. I notice it like I have some buddies who have a father, or everyone has fathers, but their father's still alive, and they'll be like a dickhead to him. Like, you know, say we're out in the garage or whatever, their dad pisses them off, and they're a dickhead. Well, that's because in their perspective, their dad is obnoxious and annoying.
Yeah.
And in my perspective, I haven't talked to my dad since I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
So there's like this in my head, like, how the hell are you talking to your dad like that? You know what it's like for him to be gone and you don't even get to have coffee?
Yeah.
They don't get it.
Nope.
So perspective.
Man, and that's like, it's heavy because the hardest lessons to learn, you can't teach people.
No.
You know?
No. My real dad killed himself when I was 15, and my stepmom died 4 years later. I have two little younger brothers, and so they're 5 and 6 years younger than me. So my dad died when I was 16, so they would be like 9 and 8.
Yep.
And then their mom died 4 years later, so 13 and 12. So they haven't even had a mother or a father since they were 12 and 13 years old. And they're 26 and 25 now.
So did you pretty much have to step up and
kind of, yeah, when I was 19.
Fill that void?
Yeah, and then also, so I didn't have a good relationship with my stepfather. He taught me some good things. Like, one of the real things was don't do a half-ass job.
Yeah.
Like on chores.
Mm-hmm.
If I did a half-ass job, I was redoing the whole fucking thing.
That circles back to what we opened this podcast with.
You're
going to mop the floor, mop it right.
You got to do it right. But then kind of us three are super duper tight. Like, I just went over there just for the day on 2 days ago, just to go play disc golf with my brother for an hour and a half and drove home. So, but like when I hear them talk, like with their friends and family about things, it's like, dude, I haven't even been told something by a parent since I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but they're good. You know, the fact that they're not in jail or dead or addicted to drugs is
it's pretty incredible,
mind blowing. But it's also cool to hear their perspective. To grow up in a world like this with they don't have any influence. They they are like feral children.
They just kind of had to
Everything they
raise
know,
themselves.
yeah,
Huh?
exactly.
Wow.
It is super wicked. And then you look at like your kids or my kids, and it's like what you brought up. Do I go down here and shoot all these motherfuckers? No, because if something happens to me, my children and my wife are going to be without me. And that's no better than hanging out here at the house.
Bro, me and Jenny, and if you're watching, you can see we're set up in my bedroom right now because the normal studio's at my jiu-jitsu academy, but sometimes there's classes going, believe it or not. So we're in my bedroom right now, and right here, like me and Jenny would sit here and have conversations when all this shit was popping off, where I would be in tears because I would tell her, I'm like, hey, it's reaching the point where I have to go confront this, and that means my death. I understand that.
Yep.
That means my death because I'm not going to be sitting in some jail cell somewhere. It's not me.
Nope.
And like, she's always super supportive of me, and when we got together, I deployed to Iraq like a couple months afterwards, right? So I mean, she knows the life. She knows me. That's who I was from the time we met. But it's like, dude, here we are 15 years later, and she thinks combat is something that's behind us, and her husband's fucking crying to her in bed saying, hey, I'm going to war.
Yeah.
You know, like, fuck, dude, I don't know, man.
I don't know either. I don't have the, and then that relates back to why I even asked you in the first place. I got questions that I want to talk to another dude who's like-minded. Because I have some friends who in the mix of all this are down there at the BLM rally with their mask and their thing on. This guy's a rich white kid from Edmonds, and if shit hit the fan, I'm not so sure he wouldn't turn on me.
Yeah. A lot of people will turn on you.
I know, and that's
a lot of people are going to go back to human nature 101. And when you deprive them of something as simple as food, stand the fuck by.
Yep.
I mean, watch Black Hawk Down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The warlords controlled the food coming in and turned those people into savages. Because food doesn't sound like something that you can weaponize, right?
Or the ultimate.
But when you don't have it, that means you die.
Yeah.
So guess what? It can be weaponized.
Yes, it can be.
You know? No, it's nuts, man. And all these people that don't have, like you're saying, you have a lot of friends that are just kind of floating through space, don't really have like hard lines that they've drawn or belief structures that they stand behind. But I implore everybody, at least figure out where you're at on this stuff and at least have a basic plan. And did you listen to that episode with Mike Glover?
I did.
Okay. So that's one of his biggest things, man. He's like, you don't have to be a 20-year special forces operator like he was. But what you need to have is a plan. A plan is everything.
Yeah.
You know? And you kind of understand where you're at. You understand what your capabilities are. You understand what equipment you have. And just that is going to put you so far ahead of the masses that are just ravaging the cities and looting and stealing and killing. Like,
it's crazy.
What I don't understand is when I talk about this kind of stuff with people, sometimes they look at me and they're like, man, that's crazy. Like, do you really believe that stuff? And I'm like, listen, again, I'm not Nostradamus. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen. But if you think human beings becoming extremely violent towards each other is out of the realm of possibility, pick up any fucking history book from the beginning of time till right now. Like, that's what people do, man.
That's it.
That's what we do.
You just hit like human being on the head.
So if you don't think that that's something that could potentially happen here, you're not being honest with yourself, period. And I don't live in fear. I'm not a fearful person. Just like you said, I like hanging out with my kids. I like going to jiu-jitsu. But being ready doesn't mean you live in fear. Being ready means I'm a dad.
Right.
That's it, man.
I think people have mixed up fear and dangerous. Because they don't mean the same thing. Fear is an illusion. It's in your head. You made it up.
Yep.
Danger is very real. And to be able to distinguish those two, I think is, it's, I think people have mixed up fear and dangerous. Because they don't mean the same thing. Fear is an illusion. It's in your head. You made it up. Danger is very real. And to be able to distinguish those two, I think is, it's, I think people have mixed up fear and dangerous. maybe not critical, but it
I think it
definitely
is.
helps.
And no, I actually like the way you articulated that, because I always tell my girls, like, fear is an emotion that I don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because I'm trying to be a tough guy. It's because if you allow fear to dictate your decisions, you're not going to come out on top.
Nope.
We don't have fear in this house, period. Okay. But I've never thought of it like articulated that way, because danger is absolutely real.
Yes.
And it's just like, if I'm standing on a cliff, do I stand with my toes 6 inches off of it, or do I stand 2 feet back from the edge?
Mm-hmm.
That's just acknowledging the danger that's there and conducting myself accordingly.
Right. It's not that you're scared. It's that you understand that there's danger to this, and if I don't make the right decision, it could potentially end up bad.
Yeah, I like that. Have I ever told you the hand under the bed story? I think I might have told it on the podcast before, so if I have, I don't apologize. Just listen to it again and enjoy yourself. Oh, yeah, my daughter came running in here one night, my youngest. She was like 3 at the time. She's like, "Dad, there's someone under my bed. There's someone under my bed. He reached his hand out when I was climbing in bed." And I'm like, "Are you serious? There's someone under your bed?" She's like, "Yeah." And she had like tears in her eyes, like super afraid. And I was like,
"Oh, fuck.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get that motherfucker." And
Yeah.
I'll swear
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I mean, maybe I'm not getting Parenting of the Year award,
I
but
wouldn't give a shit.
when I want to really show my kids like it's on and I'm
Right.
excited.
To reiterate something.
Yeah. And I'm like, "You're telling me there's someone in this house?" And I look at her and I'm like, "Well, we're not the ones that need to be afraid.
Yeah.
He's the one that needs to be afraid." I said, "All right, let's go get him." Okay. I was like, "This is exciting." I said, "You know why it's exciting? Because we're going fishing in the morning and we don't have crab bait. We're going to put that motherfucker in our crab pots."
Yeah.
And she's like, "We're going to put him in the crab pots?" I said, "Yeah. If that guy's in your room in the middle of the night, you're damn right he's going in the crab pots."
Yeah.
And she looks at me and goes, "Can we feed him to the seals too?" I said, "Yeah, we can feed some of them to the seals."
Yeah.
And her fear went to excitement.
Yes.
And I know that there's plenty of people that hear this and think like, this is ridiculous, right? But the whole point of that was to turn fear into excitement.
That's it.
Because if there was someone in her room, I'm not afraid. I'm going to go in there and fuck that dude up.
Yes.
You know, that's what I'm going to do. But I want her to not feel fear either, you know? So went in there, flipped the mattress over, and there was nobody there. And so I like showed her disappointment. I was like, "Oh man, did you think he already left, or do you think maybe you were mistaken?" She's like, "Oh, I don't know." And I was like, "Okay, well, just know if he comes back, we're going to handle business." You know, and just
That
let
gives her
it,
confidence.
yeah, it takes them from a victim mentality to a warrior's mentality.
Yes. Yes.
And that's important, man. Even as a little kid that's incapable, that she can't do anything herself, but it's just a way that she can carry herself and her beliefs starting at 3 until she's 40.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And they say 1 in 3 girls will be sexually assaulted at some point in their life. So it's important to have your girls have confidence. Because guess what? The guys that are looking to sexually assault girls, they're fucking finely tuned predators looking for the weakest link.
Yep.
And when they look at your girl and they see her strong posture and just like that, some determination in her eyes,
Yep.
guess what they're going to do? They're going to bypass her and they're going to go to the next one.
Yep.
You know?
It's
And bro, when it starts when they're 2.
It does.
Everything starts when you're 2.
And on that, for anyone listening who has kids, if you don't know The Way of the Warrior from Jocko,
Yes, dude.
I got those for the boys. Dude, game changer on Talon, the middle one.
Yeah.
It's totally changed. So when the boys were little, he was the like thrill seeker and tough son of a bitch. And then as they started getting older, it switched.
Okay.
So now the oldest one is like that, and Talon is more standoffish, shy, fearful. Well, I started reading these kids these books, and they both want to be SEALs and Rangers and
That's
Raiders,
awesome, dude.
and they can do push-ups, and you got to believe in yourself. And
Jocko did an amazing job at making confidence and athleticism and determination cool.
Mm-hmm.
Because those things are cool. But for some reason, like in the culture where they want to make everybody be equal and everybody feels good, like those traits start to get stripped away.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, if you want to be a performer, if you want to be the best version of yourself, that shit's important, man.
Yep.
You know? And yeah, I think I've talked about those books a lot too. It's like, they touch on all those things.
They do.
They touch on kindness. They touch on bullying. They touch on like overcoming adversity, and
failures.
goals, and like all of these different things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, if that lesson can start at 2, that's awesome.
That's, better than down at Chaz learning now.
Yeah, dude. No, in our parents' generation was a little different, where like, I feel like my dad raised me kind of hard, you know? And I always wonder, looking back on it, because my father's passed too now, like, I think he did a pretty good job, because I'm pretty happy with the man that I've grown into. Obviously, there's work to do, just like there is on all of us. Like, and I'm far from having the answers on things, but I'm pretty proud of who I've become. And so I have to say, like, my dad's tough love, maybe that's the right answer for little boys.
I think it is.
Because I was afraid of my dad. I was afraid of my dad until I was 18 years old. I turned 18, and my dad's like, hey, come out in the garage and sit down. And I'm like, fuck, dude. And he's like, all right, I had 18 years to mold you into the man I thought you need to be. Now it's over. And he shook my hand. He goes, we're going to be friends from now on. It was in a moment, dude. In one moment, it went from like, oh, fuck, dude, I hope my dad doesn't find out, to him and I could go out in the garage and crack a beer together and bullshit.
Isn't that weird?
It's weird, man. And it made me realize is that his tough love approach, it wasn't just something that was happening. It was calculated.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he chose to raise me, you know? And so, I mean, I never heard my dad say he loved me until I was 30 years old or whatever.
Okay.
And I don't think that's good. Like, I think a little boy needs affection just like a little girl does.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, I have to be like, well, his tough love approach definitely had some benefits to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've talked to my mom about this, and I've told her that my only goal is to raise my kids better than you guys raised me.
Yeah.
And she took offense to it.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she took offense. And I said, no. I said, that's my job.
Yeah.
I said, I should think about all the things that you guys did and the things that I think molded me into the person that I want to be. And I should be tweaking that a little bit and trying to be a better parent than you. If I said I wanted to be a worse parent, that's fucking retarded.
Yeah,
right?
that's bad. That's what we're supposed to be trying to do. And I hope that our kids are a little bit better than us.
That's exactly
right?
That's exactly what I said to her. And I said, my daughters hopefully are better parents than I am. Like, that's how you reach that. You know what I mean? Like, every generation of human
evolving a little bit,
becoming a little better, a little more dialed in.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we got people on the fucking moon. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, if you had to just go start out in the jungle on your own with nothing, you think you'd have a fucking space shuttle?
Yeah, no.
By the end of your life?
Right?
Not a chance. I'd probably, 30 years in, I'd be able to start a fire.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where I'd be at.
Me too. I would have probably died. Starvation.
I don't know. I've watched a lot of Naked and Afraid.
Have you liked that show?
Maybe it'd carry me along.
Maybe.
I'll tell you what, that show is entertaining, but Alone's the show that I dig, dude.
I'll have to check that out.
Oh, bro.
I haven't watched it.
That's the show.
Alone. Okay.
So people are getting sick of this too. Everyone's going to unsubscribe from this podcast from hearing about jiu-jitsu and Alone. But they take 10 dudes, or like half girls, half guys, 10 of them, drop them out in the woods in like Arctic conditions.
Okay.
It's like -20. And they all have a SATCOM telephone.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on your own. No film crew. You're filming with your own hands.
Okay.
The last person to call and say, come get me, $1 million.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
the first couple seasons were
rough,
500,000.
Uh-huh.
Just this last one, $1 million.
$1 million.
And so,
when you trying out?
bro, I've always said season 1, I think I could have won.
Uh-huh.
because the guy that won that, he won it just off of being gritty and tough.
Okay.
I'm like, I can be gritty and tough.
Yep.
But the people that are now on that show, bro, they're building fucking log cabins with fully functional fireplaces and fucking rotisseries and dude, it looks like they're at some fucking like resort.
Survivalists.
They know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
And the guy that won this last season, his whole life, he's like, I've been living off the grid, building cabins, dressing animals, fishing on frozen lakes, like my entire life. This is what I do. You can't, you can't compete with that.
Yeah, no,
you know.
That's like,
but it's interesting seeing what breaks people. Some people break because of like starvation.
Mm-hmm.
They can't feed themselves enough. Some people are eating enough food, but they miss human interaction. Like this one girl was like on day 88 and she's like, I'm doing okay, but I have to see my boyfriend. This is where I'm at. I miss human interaction. I need to see my boyfriend. I'm out of here. Some people like fucked up things happen. Like their shelter gets lit on fire because something falls over in their pot that they're cooking, and the shelter goes up in flames. It's 30 degrees out. You're toast.
Yep.
And so it's like it's a neat human experience because you watch all these people go through this experience and then they all quit for different reasons.
Uh-huh.
And dude, and every one of them says the same thing. They're like, I don't care that I won the money or I didn't win the money. I learned so much about myself. So I always say, I tell Jenny, I was like, I got to do that at some point.
Yeah.
Go out in the woods for 2 months on your own. Because you come out of that motherfucker knowing you.
Yes.
It's you. And they say that too. They're like, it's you in your head. That's it. Like the conversations that you have a lot of times like go back to being like little kids, parents, like conversations with your parents from when you were 7 that you haven't thought about in 30 years. When you have 3 months out in the woods with nothing.
Right.
I mean, fuck, dude, every spare second of our time is
phone.
We're staring at our phone, getting fed information.
Yeah.
Detached from everything. Dude, it would be a wild experience.
It would be wild.
And bro, I mean, like I fucking went hiking for 2 days last weekend.
Yeah.
Just 2 days being detached from the world.
Feels good.
Feels damn good.
It does.
And that reiterated to me that's what we're supposed to be doing.
I think we are. Like I said, when I went camping and I just went camping again, there's something about being out in nature. I mean, you can be with people too. I was with people.
Yeah, of course. That's more natural to be with people.
Well, we had a tribe in the woods, and my buddy's cooking over here, and the kids are messing in the dirt in the middle, and the girls are over there bullshitting. I'm over here with the dogs trying to round them up, and it's great.
And it feels good.
It feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Bro, it's a primitive like reward system being triggered, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What I noticed last weekend, which was like the most powerful part of the experience, is I packed super light because I haven't been hiking much, and I was like, I don't want weight to just ruin the experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I packed light. I didn't even pack my tent, and I just slept under the stars. And dude, when you're 30 miles or whatever it was out into the woods, sleeping, and we were above the tree line at this point because we were at like 7,000 feet. Bro, I forgot what the night sky looked like. I don't remember the last time that I was that remote and just lay down and looked at the world. And then you start to realize like how insignificant you are.
Just this little speck on this.
Just the littlest speck.
Yeah. Yep.
Among billions of specks.
Yep.
And it's weird because it made me start to think of one of 2 different trains of thought. One is like, I'm so insignificant that nothing means anything. Like none of this stuff means anything. Who wins the election? Like what car I have? Like just nothing means anything. That's how insignificant we are. Mm-hmm. But then I started thinking like, well, at the same time, you know what that means? Is that this means everything.
Yeah.
That out of this entire universe that I'm looking at, I'm right here right now. And I'm doing it.
You're doing it.
It's fucking crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. As I talked to my brother about that, of feeling insignificant, just little me spinning on a ball out in the middle of fucking wherever.
Yeah.
But then you realize like how much how much power one person has.
Yeah.
And maybe one person doesn't have the power to change the world, but they can relay the message that can. And I mean, look at you're a police officer, you're a little pissed off or fed up about some bullshit. You're like, fuck it, I'm going to pull over and make this video. And here you are.
It's so crazy, dude. Like, it's to the point where I have to wonder if this is all like a simulation.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, is this a video game that I'm just a character in and I'm being controlled?
Played.
And people are just watching on their flat screen somewhere else? Like, oh, wonder what this guy's going to do when we do this to him. Boom. You know, like,
it's crazy.
Fuck, dude. There was some astronomer, physicist, I don't even know what he was, on Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
One of those guys that's so smart that my brain can't even really comprehend what he's saying. But he said mathematically, just strictly based on mathematics alone, it's more likely that the world we're living in is fake than real.
And I keep coming across shit like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on?
Try and wrap your head around that one.
Uh-huh.
You know? Fuck, dude, we just burned through 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Damn.
And what do we get to? One question?
Yeah, about 2. Like that. We really, I mean, a lot of we went over it.
That's good, man. No, that makes me happy because I like to keep these right around 2 hours. That's kind of the flavor of this podcast, and that means we got more shit to talk about.
Yeah.
So that's cool, man.
Very cool.
You got anything else you wanna throw out there before we wrap this up?
Go out and train. Go to jiu-jitsu, run, CrossFit, do something. Be healthy. Get your mind and physical body right.
And if you're local, come to Electric Jiu Jitsu in Lake Stevens, Washington.
Do it. I actually got a new guy. My neighbor is going to start coming tomorrow.
Nice, dude.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.